Alton Area School District School Board meeting, August the 2nd at 7:21 p.m. Could we stand for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Baker. Mrs. Bream.
Here.
Mr. Francis. Mr. Hoff.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mrs. Irwin Adams. Mr. Johnston. Mr. Cruz. Dr. Malloy.
Here.
Thank you. I would like to announce that we did have an executive session this evening for purposes of personnel, real estate, and labor relations. And before we get started, I would like to read a letter from the Altoona Food Bank. It is addressed to me, and it says, on behalf of the Altoona Food Bank, I want to thank you for choosing us as the recipient of this year's homecoming donation. This past year is especially hard on everyone, and the food bank has served many new clients due to the changes the pandemic has caused. Your wonderful contribution will go a long way in helping us to continue to be there for our clients. On behalf of all of those who will benefit from your generosity, please thank your students for this most generous gift. Ivana Walter, President of the Altoona Food Bank. And thank you to our students and our staff for making that available to the food bank. They really appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Okay, do we have any citizens that would like to?
If I may, I have one addendum. Okay, before we start with citizens' comments, we have one addition to the agenda. It is a personnel item. It is the hiring of Megan Rustler as a full-time substitute French instructor for the Altoona Area High School. Salary is $46,769, which is master's year one, step one, effective August 20th, 2021. It's just it's a last minute add-on. We needed to lock her in. Quite frankly, she had another job offer and she would rather be here. If we hire her, we've got her. If we don't hire her, she'll be going elsewhere, and French substitutes are extremely hard to find. So that's the reason we're putting her on at the last minute. Thank you for your understanding.
Any citizens wishing to address the board? Please step forward and please limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Sure. Hello, I'm Chris Gahart. I'm from the 01 side of Altoona. I have 4 children. 2 of them actually come to the junior high and high school. Today, I just wanted to come talk to you about the actual approved backpack, new backpack policy that's been approved. So to me, this policy is it's a violation of our students' Fourth Amendment rights to protect them within their effects, persons, papers, and from unreasonable searches and seizures. The key word that I see within the Fourth Amendment is the unreasonable portion. It's basically, from what I found and looked, I could be okay with it if we had some reason, such as at the end of last school year, there was a reason for us to go and say, hey, we need to do this. At this point in time, I don't see anything out there that makes this reasonable for searching or looking into the personal effects of students within our school district. From a article in the Altoona Mirror, there was a reason that was stating that we're seeing younger kids with more access to weapons within our community. That brings up the question is there any reasonable evidence or suspicion that actual students are bringing weapons to school? I'm not seeing any evidence or research out there that suggests this. And so in this manner, to me, it would make this policy an unconstitutional policy. Policies like this are like this one, not only invade privacy of students, potentially subjecting them to bullying and harassment from other students, but it also makes it easier for security teams to become complacent, because now instead of, hey, I'm looking in a bag, it's, hey, I'm just going to look at it and okay, you can go. When I listened to the June 21st board meeting, it sounded like a lot of this was for the safety and security of our students coming into our school. As I looked online through some Google Scholar research, I was on for about 2 hours and I couldn't find anything out there that suggests that this type of policy would in fact be more beneficial to the safety and the security of our students within the school district. But what I did find was, I found a study, it was by Mr. Ben Brown from 2008, and it's called Controlling Crime and Delinquency in the School. The conclusion of that study was that transparent bag policies had little impact on the presence of drugs and or weapons within the schools. So basically so with this to me, it's an erosion of our freedoms that we actually enjoy within this country. It's something small, and I understand we're going to say, hey, it's a small item that we're going to do to help with the safety and security of our children. But then to me, the next question is, this leads us down the path of, it's just this one thing this time. And then it's just this one thing this time. And then by the time we get to the end, it's a policy of, well, there are no more freedoms and it's all about security. And then we end up in a potential police state within a school. So with that, my recommendation for that would be to at least go back and look at it again, to see if we can maybe find studies, conduct studies that have happened within the past couple of years, so that we can actually get a better grasp on whether we should or should not be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving right along. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the June 21st meeting,
So moved.
the July 9th COW meeting? Could someone,
So moved.
okay, and a second?
Second. Thanks, Frank.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Finance. Dreyer Athletic Trainer Services Renewal, a 3-year contract. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Prater Rewards changes, blood work, MedExpress, and University Orthopedics. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. ASO, yes. Can we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Altoona School District Policy, first and final reading. And Altoona School District Policy, first reading. That is for weapons, terroristic threats, hazing, bullying, cyberbullying, emergency preparedness and response, and school security personnel. Can we have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Education, Music Parents Agreement, Volunteer Approval, Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Project, Alton Area School District Health and Safety Plan, Revised GED Testing Schedule, continuation of 20-day doctor letter threshold. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Personnel. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
This will include the addendum with Megan Russler.
Any questions?
Well, I got a question. I see we have, I believe this is it. How many teachers do we have leaving?
This has been a year we've had multiple resignations to go to other school districts. Primarily, we've lost several to State College.
My understanding is at least two of those individuals got a $25,000 pay raise. We also have people who have left this job with no other job to speak of. We've got an issue and we need to address it. And I've been talking about this for years and I'll continue to talk about it until I'm done in a couple months. We need to know why these people are leaving. I've been saying this for years. We need exit interviews. We need to find out about morale. We need to find out why. Now, if you told me you were going to pay me $25,000 to go 35 minutes away, that's a good reason. I hear you talking. But we need to look at why we're losing teachers. We need to have a real report that discusses morale of our employees. We need to address these issues. And I don't remember that. Do we have an SEA on there as well?
We do have, actually have one.
Okay. Listen, and I asked this question and I know Brad's probably ready for me on this. Are you ready for me, Brad? Where are we at with our STAs at this point? How many are we short?
We just conducted interviews last week, and I believe we interviewed 5, correct? 4, and we are still in need of more. We're probably about 15 to 20 short at this point, and we are conducting interviews as the applications come in on a regular basis. So we are giving every consideration to any person qualified that has a passion for kids, that wants to come in and serve in the SEA capacity.
And can I go back to your words to when a meeting and I was talking to you about how important SEAs are? You said they are vital to the functioning of the academic process.
100%.
I totally agree with you 100%. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Without these SEAs and these positions being filled, our teachers will not be able to educate properly. I've seen this in action myself when I went around at the schools. Our teachers' hands are already full. The SEAs are a vital and crucial part of the educational process. I want to know why our teachers are leaving. I want to know why we're losing SEAs. I want to know what's really going on with the morale of our teachers, our educators, and our employees. And that being said, I love this school district. I want to see it thrive. And I hate to see people go that are good teachers. I hate to see people go that truly love kids, but simply can't do it on the money we're paying our SEAs. So as far as this discussion goes, I've been begging us for years, please, let's get back to it. Let's find out why we're losing these people. Let's find out why the morale, I'm only going by, this is anecdotal, but from the people I talk to, I want to get to the bottom of this, and I want our employees as happy to be a part of this school district as I've been over the past 4 years to represent it. So that being said, please, let's get to the bottom of what's going on with our teachers leaving. If it's a money issue, I get it, because money is king. But as far as everything else goes, you don't get into this job to become rich. There's obviously a love for students and educating. So can we please take a look at that? And Brad, I know you'll be on it, but I want to know why we can't keep or retain our SEAs. And I want to know why this is like every time we have a meeting, it seems like we're losing qualified teachers, and it's getting frustrating.
We do an exit interview process with every employee, and again, we will tabulate that and make that available to the board. The majority we have when it comes to teachers is they're either moving home or they're moving for a bigger paycheck. There's just, that comes down to our financial and fiscal realities. SEAs, it's a very challenging job. It's not an extremely technical job, but it's a job where sometimes you gotta wear shin guards because it can be rough and tumble. And that's not an easy job for a lot of people. But we will continue to do the exit interviews and we'll continue to make that information
And once
available.
again, like what you just said about they have to wear shin guards, I get it. And they're quality people doing this job, and they just can't do it anymore at the rate we're paying. And I understand that. But once again, I want this to be the best school district it can be, and let's find this out and see if we can move forward and keep those qualified people and make sure we're keeping the classroom the very best situation for teachers to teach and students to get educated, and those SCAs are vital. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Student Services, Blair County Department of Social Services, seamless summer option, Amtran driver list, STA driver list. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. FlanCon. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Repository bids. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions? Is it fair to say on these repository bids, when someone purchases this, they're not really purchasing it to fix up the property, to bring it back on the tax rolls at the level it should be on there? A lot of them are buying it for a side yard or something because it's connected to their property.
The repository is the last bastion for a house. It's already gone through foreclosure. It's already gone through bankruptcy sales and those kinds of things. It's gone through sheriff's sales. If it still isn't purchased, this is the last shot to recoup anything from the city's standpoint. Usually these properties have been abandoned for several years. And usually, as you are correct, they are usually demoed and turned into side yards or other kinds of extensions of the people who live around them.
Okay, because it seems like that's what happens rather than it coming back on the tax rolls, like the one that has a value of $39,500 being sold for $250. I don't think we can ever expect to have taxes based on $39,500.
No.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Capital Reserve list of payments. Capital Projects list of payments. Address update for administrative offices. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Facilities and maintenance. City of Altoona AAHS Student Commons. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Conversation, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item, Stevens Plumbing bid. This is an emergency situation. And can I get a motion and a second? And then we're going to turn this over to Mr. Endler so he can explain. what's
So
going on.
moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Bring it on, Doug.
For the last few years, we've not had many people out at Stevens Building. We moved some folks out there before we got them into the district administrative offices, and approximately 5 weeks ago, on the second floor restroom, somebody flushed a toilet, and one of the sewer pipes in the restroom below literally blew out into the room and created a big mess. So this is an old cast iron pipe. I think Stevens Building is like 1914 vintage. We're going to load that school up with students this year, and we have to be ready for them with their labs and such. So this is an emergency project. We need to get the contractors on site so that they can be ready for kids in a couple of weeks. So the base bid number 1 is to rebuild that second floor restroom and the piping beneath it that shows in the first floor restroom, the men's side, and to get that work done by 8/24. So it's ready for the start of school. Base bid number 3 is to complete the remaining portion of the domestic water piping and the sewer piping by the end of next summer, August 12th of 2022. And then alternate number 2, which is these were all recommended by our engineer, is to reroute the rainwater conductors, that is roof drains that come down into the building, to reroute them and rebuild the line out to the sewer out into the street. So that's the 3 components of the contract we're asking you to approve tonight.
And we are asking for the board to approve an overall amount of $175,000 for the project.
Correct.
Okay,
Any
all in
questions?
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. You've,
He's stating an extension of the trial, so he is employed with the engineer that facilitated the
okay,
request for bids.
okay,
Not the contractor behind the bids being awarded, but the engineering firm that.
okay. I was moving on to that next.
No, but he had to abstain
That's
on
also
this
why
one.
he's abstaining from this one.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Stevens Plumbing and Engineering, that is for this emergency approval that we're dealing with here. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
The explanation is simple. When this emergency occurred, we had to secure the services of an engineering firm to literally give us the course of action to correct the situation and to make the building whole so we could put students in it. And so we had to move to do that. We're now asking the board to approve that hire or that contract, for lack of a better word, posthumously,
All in favor?
retroactively.
Opposed? Motion passes. Before I go on to the next one, I went past one and I was going to ask Brad to explain because I know parents are concerned about this. The health and safety plan is in regards to what to expect when the students come back to school this fall.
Absolutely. So we had posted a draft of our 2021-2022 health and safety plan, which is required to be filed with PDE. At the end of July, we'll get a waiver for tonight's board meeting. So just a couple of the highlights, and this will be available tomorrow on our website for any citizen review. The district will adhere to any federal and or state mandates that are issued and will monitor the latest recommendations from PDE, the Department of Health, as well as the CDC in order to inform and evaluate our current health and safety plan. This will be undergoing consistent reevaluation, and at any point where we are recommending a change or an update to that plan, we will present that to the board in a situation where there's availability for public review and comment, and then we will then post the update to our school district website. All of our students are scheduled to either return in person and or enroll in our cyber academy for the upcoming school year, and that's for all of our students in K to 12. And we provide a continuum of services for academic, social, and mental health through all of the programming, depending on the nature of the platform that students will be learning in. Specifically, we will follow any federal or state mandate in terms of masking policies. We will monitor CDC recommendations. At this point, masking will be an option of our students and families. It is not a requirement at this point. It is not a mandate. All school district employees that are not fully vaccinated will be required to wear a mask while in indoor facilities within the school district. We will consistently remind and educate all of our students and citizens in terms of proper masking. And obviously that will be a fluid situation depending on the mandates if and when they come out from any of the entities that govern our students. We will continue to strive for social distancing when possible in all of our classrooms. We will avoid large group environments when possible. And when in a large group setting, we will strive for social distancing at that point. We will continue to reinforce and stress hand washing and other respiratory etiquette that has been commonplace over the course of the COVID epidemic. We will continue to practice our cleaning and ventilation practices that we have put in place over the past 18 months, maximizing ventilation in all of our buildings, and obviously utilizing recommended and appropriate cleaning procedures and disinfectants in all of our facilities. We will continue to work with agencies in the state of Pennsylvania to contact trace and quarantine when necessary any students that are found to be possibly infected and or in an environment where they may have come in contact with students or other adults or other peoples that were infected. We will continue to recommend that parents and families evaluate their personal medical situations at home and not send ill or potentially ill students to school. We will also utilize our nursing professionals to make recommendations as to whether or not students are exhibiting symptomatics within school and need to be sent home for a period of time. We will also be very active in providing vaccination opportunities to our students and to the community. We are looking at multiple vaccination events here at the start of the school year that will provide our students with an opportunity that are eligible to become vaccinated and engage in that process. We will abide by all federal and state laws for students with disabilities and providing them with appropriate accommodations. And we will coordinate with state and local health officials on all COVID-related activities moving forward. Once again, this plan will be updated and posted to our website tomorrow. We want to thank our board for previewing and recommending approval tonight. Any questions? Absolutely. The one exception is it is a federal mandate for all students riding school district transportation that they are masked during the time that they are engaged in transportation. So all of our vans, buses, minibuses will be requiring masking of all students of all age levels, regardless of vaccination status.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The employees, is that they're required to wear it if they're not vaccinated, no exceptions, or if they have medical excuse for not wearing a mask, are they still able to not wear a mask?
If there are medical exceptions that we need to consider, we will take those on an individual basis.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on, debt resolution. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Did we have to vote on that, what Brad just proposed?
Mr. McShane is going to go over our debt.
Thank you. It's nice to see everybody in person once again. It's better than Zoom. We're so sick of Zoom at this point. In an extension of the presentation a month ago, we've updated all the numbers to reflect current market conditions. They can be found on page 2 of our handout. The resolution you have in front of you tonight isn't to issue debt today. It's for the potential to issue debt in the future if we can meet certain benchmarks. The main benchmark in that resolution is a minimum number of savings. As we discussed at the last meeting, we set that minimum threshold at $1 million plus in net savings to the school district, meaning that after all cost of issuance, after all fees are paid, the district must save in excess of $1 million in order to move forward with the refunding. So with that being said, let's talk about where the market is today compared to a month ago. Over the last month, we've seen rates drop precipitously lower every day. That has worked to the benefit of Altoona on the transaction we're discussing, which is the 2013A or 2013 period. This savings have gone from 1.2 million to about 1.3 million. And again, those are net present value that we're going to take and use to reduce debt service over the life of that issue. If you go to page 2, you can see on the left-hand side, and I don't want to confuse the 18s and 18As, which are also on this paper, which I want to talk about after we vote on the resolution. But just on the left-hand side, highlighted in yellow, that's the difference between the old debt, the new debt, and what that differential in payment would be. So it's about $100,000 a year in net savings to the district. What we've come up with in the last month, because we acted so quickly to have that meeting, we have almost everything in place today to go to market within the next 7 days. So after this vote today, if the market holds, or even if it gets stronger, and in fact, even the numbers you see today, the market has even gone lower since they were run. So it would even be higher savings today. We can expect to be in the market within the next 7 days to capture this. Where we received the final piece today, which was the insurance cost. The insurance cost is to make sure if for whatever reason Altoona can't pay, there's a bond insurance company behind you that will pay your debt service, and you pay for that just like you pay for insurance on your car. That allows your bonds to trade at the highest level possible and not just on your underlying rating. However, if we did have to trade on your underlying rating, I want to point out as well, the district, when it was put to the process of the rating, maintained the same rating it did in 2018. And that's important because as a board, as an administration, you only have to look at yourselves through the mirror of the rating agencies. And you only do it when you do a bond issue. In 2018, the district had a fund balance upwards of 50 million plus. Since then, you have used that fund balance for one-time items. And we were concerned that the rating agencies would see the district and say, geez, they rely on state funding. They've been spending on their fund balance. Well, after the interview with your administration, looking at the financials over the last 3 years, they were able to see, and they believe the district has done everything correctly in the spending of that fund balance, that it wasn't just for operational costs, it was for one-time capital uses. It was to help to offset debt service. And because they were able to rely upon what they were told through your administration, you were able to maintain that A+ rating that you received in 2018 with roughly about half the same fund balance. Now, moving forward, if you were to spend down that to a lower level, they probably would reevaluate it. But based upon everything they heard, based upon your current budget situation, your budget situation over the next 2 years, even with the ESSER's funds, they think you're going to maintain that rating. So from a financial perspective, the district is looking like it's in great shape in this horrible, horrible market that the pandemic has created. So kudos to you, kudos to your administration. You've done everything right you've done everything you could to maintain the district on the right road moving forward. So what that means is that we have the rating, we have the insurance. Once we print documents, which we pass this resolution, we'll be able to capture the market. And there's no real economic data that's going to happen within the next week. So we feel very confident once this passes that, cross our fingers, net of millions, very possible, and hopefully, a couple $100,000 more than that. That's where we are with that transaction. Once you vote on that, I don't want to confuse the 2018 A's, but there's 18s and 18As, but there's a lot to talk about from those two transactions as well, and where they are in the market and what you could expect in terms of legislation that could help or may not help, depending on where Congress is with that legislation. So with that, we have bond counsel with us, Chris Brewer from Dinsmore Shoal, who has drafted that resolution that has in front of you. And if you'd like him to speak about some specifics of that resolution, he's more than happy to, or if you'd rather just vote on it, that's up to you as well.
Would you like to hear from him before we vote?
This is kind of a no-brainer for me. If we do this, if we agree to this, we're going to end up saving money, correct?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, depending on what the market does in the
Yes.
next 7 days.
Correct.
So what we're doing is trying to save
Right.
money on the money we're already spending out on these loans, correct?
Yes.
All right, well.
You're not,
yeah.
you bring up a good point. We're not increasing your debt service. We're not increasing your payments. We're not increasing the final maturity. Everything remains the same. We're just lowering your interest cost.
Chris, can you repeat what you said? Sure.
Good evening. I'm Chris Brewer from Dinsmore and Shoal. Very pleased to be with you this evening and have the opportunity to serve as your bond counsel. The resolution, I think, is on your laptops, but I also have a paper copy if you would like, is a document that our office prepared with the assistance of your administration, your solicitor. It authorizes a bond issue, sets out all the different terms and conditions and findings that the Local Government Unit Debt Act requires you to find as a school board. You operate under a uniform statute with cities and towns and counties in this Commonwealth. It is a contract with bondholders. It sets forth a number of conditions in terms about how the bonds are administered and paid and handled. There are federal tax law covenants, federal securities law covenants. But to your point, this does what you want it to do. If you authorize this resolution tonight, vote in favor of it, then you are basically commissioning the president of your board to sign a contract with Benning and Scattergood as your underwriter, so long as they can get bonds marketed at interest rates that produce that minimum dollars of savings. So as John said, we're not extending debt. We are looking for these savings net of costs. Everything is the benefit back to the district. If you do vote in favor, we have a lot of work done. John's office and your administration have worked very hard to get that rating in place, to get an official statement prepared. That's sort of the document that investors read. And we would plan to print it and get in the market and look for those offers from investors. John's firm doesn't lend you the money. They are a broker and they sell bonds to the marketplace. And so when those offers come in, if they're at rates low enough as we anticipate to produce the savings, then it's a go, subject to your signature. And if we can't reach that minimum $1 million, then we idle our engine. We sit for a while, we wait and hope for the market to come back. John did touch on a point very quickly, but an important one. It has been such a volatile market and we don't ever seem to know where the drivers are. Stocks go up, but then bonds go down in rate. And that's not the way it's usually supposed to work. But between now and the next week or so, there are no planned announcements, no planned Federal Open Market Committee meetings, things like that, for which the market sometimes takes a step back and waits. So if it is good as it is today, we should be able to get the $1 million.
I don't mind
I'm-
hearing from you, and that makes perfect sense. Thank you for coming in your suit and tie. That makes me very happy to hear that.
Well, these don't get worn as much as they used to, I feel.
Any savings we can have on paying on these loans? Yes, 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 yes.
Now, if you'd like, and I don't want to take your meeting any longer, and perhaps you want to vote on this first, but John, I think, is trying to reserve time in his presentation, talk a little bit about step 2. And so if you'd like to hear that, he's ready to speak about that, because that involves, I think you've heard some of this, a little more of a policy decision about where you think Congress is headed and what's going to happen on the national front in terms of the tax laws that govern what we do. For the 2013 refunding, this is the path.
Okay, yeah, I think we need to vote on this and then we can speak to that,
Yes.
keep them separate.
Yes.
Okay, thank
thank
you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Yes.
Certainly,
Mrs. Bream,
yes.
Mr. Hoff, Mr. Hoover,
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Johnston, Dr. Malloy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay, it's not in there. Okay,
Thank you
Okay.
for doing your job.
okay. Do you want to speak to the
Yeah, I think so.
2018 debt?
Please.
That's a little bit more complicated.
Right. And it's a lot more open-ended and there's no right answer to what we're about to talk about. So even no matter what our opinions are, it's important to know what your options are with your other two pieces of debt. They are at a higher interest rate. They're both have an average rate of about 5%. Both of those aren't callable until 2025. And we had talked about this at the last meeting, that if you wanted to refund those today, you'd have to use taxable bonds, just like you're doing on the current transaction of 2013. If you use taxable bonds today, you're going to receive roughly 10 million in net savings to the district, which obviously sounds very attractive. And we want to do that. And we want to save money because that's a lot of money to this district. In the meantime, we've heard through Congress and representatives of the last 8 months that they were trying to reenact a policy that was taken away in 2018 that would have allowed you to do this on a tax exempt basis. And there have been various proposals written over the last 8 months. And we were very positive that something would come out in the current legislation that's being proposed. However, what was released today contained nothing that would allow entities such as yours that can issue tax exempt debt the ability to advance refund on a tax exempt basis. If it's not part of that package, I think our hope where before that was written, maybe it was above 50%. Now that it's not part of that package, it's a very slim hope, if any, at this point. Could it come? Absolutely. Someone could push it forward. We haven't seen it in the last 8 months with any big push, and there's a lot of things being pushed around Congress right now. So with that, I think the board has a different decision to make of what do we do now? We have a very attractive rating in terms of what you receive from Standard & Poor's. We have bond documents done. Do we take baby steps on this transaction and move forward? Because we know, well, at least, and if we'll go through these actual, let's break them into pieces. When we talk about 10 million net savings, really 6 million in cash flow savings come from the 2018 and 4 million come from the 2018A. So there's steps that could be taken that we can actually look at them separately rather than together, because at this point, maybe one provides a lot more benefit than the other. Or if you wanted to hedge yourselves, you could always say, well, we don't know what Congress is going to do. We know we can have substantial savings from one of them and very good savings from the other, but maybe we do one versus the other, or maybe we do both. These are ideological decisions that you have to make that we can advise you on, but really it's going to come down to a gut call. As an entity that makes decisions on your outstanding debt, most school districts, counties, the state look for a 3% savings level. Both of the 2018 is close to 10% taxable. The 2018A is about 5.5%, 6%. So they're well above the threshold. It just so happens that, geez, I wish we could do them tax exempt, because then the other one would be almost double on both of those in terms of savings if we could do them tax exempt. So we have a lot going on. We have a little bit of hope, but with that little bit of hope, do we prepare ourselves so that we can move quickly? And we can do that without doing much. We can pass a resolution at your next meeting that says, if and then this happens, for instance, that resolution you have in front of you could potentially say you have the ability to issue taxable or tax exempt bonds in the future if instead of a dollar amount, you pick a target percentage of the 2018 or the 2018A. And that can all be drafted or crafted in the same resolution, all depending on what percentage of savings might make sense to the district. For instance, if you were to ask my opinion, I'm sure you would want to ask my opinion. The 2018 seems like it's projecting in today's market a lot more savings than the 2018A, and I'd hate to pass that up. So I would say, boy, if we could save 8% or more on that issue, I think it's worth considering, because the downside is that what if we wait until we get closer to that cold date, or we wait until they change the tax legislation and rates go up 70 basis points, and all of a sudden, all that savings we thought we had is less. So these are all things we have to weigh. So looking at the numbers, knowing the business, at this point, I think it's worthwhile to pass that resolution, and then in the next 2 weeks, talk to your administration and come up with a number in terms of percentage of savings that would make sense for either or both of these to move forward. And then if that all makes sense, what I just said, we then go to Chris and say, okay, Chris, we want you to draft this resolution and give them the flexibility so that it meets all these requirements and allows us to lock in rates if and when they come to a point where they're low enough to save you money.
I have a question. If we wait till 2025, we can do it non-taxable, correct? If we do it now, it's going to be taxable.
Yes,
And we're looking, what, at a 5% rate going down to 299?
correct. That's in today's market. Yes,
Okay, and the other one, a 433 down to 288.
yes.
And the only thing that could change that would be Washington to intervene and allow us to do it non-taxable now.
Well, and then also market conditions could change it as well. So,
Well, true.
the-
So-
and those are the two things you're weighing. What will Congress do and where will rates be in 2025? So if it were tax exempt today, that rate would be about 70 basis points lower, right? So let's call that your delta. So if rates were to rise in general, tax exempt bonds, if tax exempt bonds were to go up 70 basis points or higher, and they changed the legislation, you didn't save any more money, you saved the exact same amount of money. So it's a question of, in the next 3 years, will rates be 70 basis points higher or lower or the same? And so that might help make your decision on what's that delta in terms of where do rates have to go if they don't change the legislation, or else you made the wrong decision by not locking in rates today. And we view that at about 70 basis points.
Plus you're going to lose 4 years of savings.
4 years
correct?
of savings. And then, and this is like an ancillary benefit, but if you can follow me on this, that transaction locked in rates, let's say until 2025, that next call date, the current of the 2018s, the new transaction would have a 10-year call. So the next opportunity to refund that taxable, tax exempt would be 2030, 31. So you basically, by saving 10 million, you added 6 years of locking in that rate before you can call it again and take advantage of low interest rates. So you extended your call by about 6 years by locking in today. If you waited to 2025, that deal would have, again, have a 10-year call on it. So next chance to refund that again is 2035. So you technically actually bought yourself 5 years. We can't put a number on what that value means to you, but you bought yourself 5 more years of being able to get into the market before 2035 if you waited into 2025. So there's a benefit there. I don't know what that means in terms of actual dollars, but having the flexibility, we always say having that flexibility of as quick as you can call your bonds in means so much, whether you want to restructure your debt, pay off your debt, or lower your interest cost.
My concern is we wait for Washington to do something and we're going to be waiting a long time. And then we lose the savings and you can't recapture that.
Can't recapture it, right?
Yes, but John and I have been talking about this for at least maybe 2.5 years, because there has to be a certain level of savings to make it worth it. We will be paying the guaranteed interest for the 7 years. That would be escrowed. It's part of the cost of doing the deal.
Right. It's you're paying it through the transaction.
Right. Because we sold bonds at a premium. We actually only took out $82 million worth of bonds to do an $88 million project. So they paid for that higher number. From our standpoint, there's got to be a certain amount, a certain level of value in the refunding to make sure that we make money above what we have to lay out because of the premium style and the 7-year call date, which guarantees them that level of interest. It's very complicated, but the reality is we're gonna have to come up with that number we have to generate and what that percentage is. And as John said, it may be one, it may be both. It's just a question, what is the market better prepared, and which is going to treat us better? I understand the 18 is 35 million, correct?
Yes.
And the 18As is 47 million, if I'm correct. Those two numbers, when he says you're going to generate 6 million off of 35, okay, versus 4 million off of 47, you realize those two bond issues were done 6 months apart, but they're not the same.
Not the same.
So it's a when you think about it, $400,000 a year savings on 47 million versus 600 or versus the what would you the
4 million.
The 4 million
Yeah.
6 million savings, 4 million versus 6 million, but you're talking about really a $15 million difference in the size of the bond configuration. So really and truthfully, the 18As are not giving us as good a return as the 18s. And that's, again, we're in constant analysis of when's going to be the best time to do it.
And that's why the difference between the resolution, the main difference if we were to draft a new resolution, besides saying that you could do it tax or tax exempt, would be set a percentage amount of savings so that whatever we decide is that benchmark, whether it's 8%, 10%, 9%, Well, we know the 18As aren't within that. The 18s are. They could get there. I mean, we're seeing rates drop another 5 basis. The 10-year treasury today hit its lowest point since January. So we heard all this talk about inflation and rates are going to go up. I think what people are thinking now is that, okay, the economy's starting to actually slow down a little bit. And we're not seeing this hyperinflation that we saw even 2 months ago when it had to do, whether it's lumber and anything else. So we're seeing that hyperinflation slow down. People are just taking a breath and saying, where are we? And that's to your benefit right now because you're ready to go with at least the 2013. Maybe if we set a percentage and you meet it on the 2018s, that makes sense. It's going to be a high percentage. It's not going to be 3%. It's going to be something about 8%. Later on, if maybe something COVID kicks back up and rates drop down again, because things like this affect the bond market. And rates drop lower, all of a sudden you could be in a position where that 40 million is now 8 million or 7 million, and you already have the documents in place to lock that in as well. So by adopting a percentage of savings in that resolution versus a dollar amount, it enables you to be in a position to do one or both, depending on where rates are. If that
And
makes sense.
what's the time frame for that? When will we have to do that?
So you could do it at your next meeting. We have enough time to get the advertisement into the paper to be the same thing where it would be a not to exceed number that would encompass as if you were going to do both. So if you're going to do both, the not to exceed would probably be together. They're about 80 million on their own, but we always add about 10% to that. So the not to exceed, just to make sure that we fit within DCED requirements, would be 90 to 95 million. You would never issue that much. It's just for DC purposes. Do it at your next meeting. And then we go through that whole rating process again, which instead of taking 6 weeks, now takes 1 week because they just did the rating. And all the documents are actually just changed the verbiage to the new transaction. And all of a sudden you're ready to go within a 2 to 2.5 week period versus 6 weeks, which is what this took. So it can happen very quickly. And to me, that's important because once September hits, once we hit Labor Day, market always changes. We typically see a decrease in interest rates, no matter where they are in the summertime, sort of a lull in trading, sort of what's happening right now. Maybe this is a lull, maybe this is actually the market. But once September hits, you're going to see more volatility up or down. I don't know, but you know where rates are today. So this might allow you to capture a piece of this before September hits.
Okay, so we would have to our next meeting to approve something like that.
Yeah,
and
if
then-
you could talk about it again, if you don't feel comfortable, then we keep talking about it, but you could act as quickly as the next meeting.
Okay, and then you would go out and get some firm figures and we would then vote on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we wouldn't have, we would have current market figures.
Okay.
And we would talk to the administration and go through some analysis of what if this happens, what if that happens, at what rate makes sense to lock in on the 18s, what rate makes sense to lock in on the 18As.
Okay,
And that's what we'll talk about at the next meeting.
okay. Sound good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report or an upcoming meeting they want to disclose?
Yes, I do. As of a month ago, there was a little bit of gloom and doom about Mansion Park, some supplies weren't coming in. We had a athletic committee meeting last Monday and Mansion Park is moving. We got there were some pieces of turf that wasn't in. We got that. There was some polyurethane we had trouble getting from Houston. We got that. The guys on the track are almost done. They got to do the line painting yet. The turf is almost done. It's looking good. And to my understanding, Elton, Mansion Park, and Baldwin are 2 schools in the state. They're moving along with the turf. It was 7 schools. They said, hey, maybe next year. But someone here in this district who are helping us is pushing some buttons and we're getting her done. The scoreboard, which is sponsor taken care of, that should be in by August 16th. Is what I heard today. I was out there.
Phil's keeping control of that. They're going to start basically when the field's done.
Okay.
And the field could be totally completed by Thursday. They craned the turf over. They're craning over. The crane will be there at approximately 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, craning over all the little rubber crumbles. So they're to the point. They were finishing the Altoona and all the logos and all that kind of thing today, and they're going to start filling the field with the rubber and the sand base to give it its G-Max rating and to finish it up.
You know, I must say, we apologize for canceling the baseball games at Mansion, but when they put the lacquer down, it takes a good 8 or 10 hours for that to dry, and we couldn't have any foul balls in there. We want it to look nice, and they all understood. They're like, yeah, we get it. So they went elsewhere. I'll say it's looking good, and it'll be done soon. So thanks everyone for your patience on Mansion.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
We're getting ready for the start of school. We'll have a newsletter going out here from my office, probably either tomorrow or the next day. I strongly encourage parents to consider getting any child over the age of 12 vaccinated. We are working with Bill Thompson and Thompson's Pharmacy. We're going to be putting another couple of vaccination events together here, and those will be coming out through our social media outlets and our website. Quite simply, the easiest way to end this problem of COVID-19 is to get vaccinated. And we get enough people vaccinated, we will reach the point where our issues will be truly minimized. So I'm encouraging everyone parents to strongly consider any child over the age of 12 getting them vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here from the employees union? Middle management? Our solicitor?
I got something before we're done. One of the things, whether we know this or not, the community watches these meetings and they actually take notes. And for better or worse, apparently I'm very recognizable. Maybe it's because my chair or my just rugged good looks. I don't know. But they take notes on what we talk about. And then they ask me questions when they see me. And one of the questions, I think Ms. Bream gave us a little bit of a assignment last time. And you told us to look up how much funding we get from the government. You said we get a lot and people would argue with that. So there are people that know the answer to these questions. So, and they're quite welcome, or they're quite gracious to answer these questions. So I called and asked the question, if the Altoona area school district is that much different than any other school district in the Commonwealth, the answer is absolutely not. And we talked about the schools in this area, such as your Hollidaysburg, your Bellwood, your Tyrone, your Williamsburg. And what they do is they have this formula, both the state and the federal government. They look at the population, obviously, of your student base. They take a look at the financial makeup of the tax base in your area. And you are given an amount of money based on that formula. That formula is used in every single school district, whether you're Bellwood. And by the way, one of the things, this gentleman was talking to me and he had no idea about this. I said, sir, do you realize we have 8 separate elementary schools that we maintain and staff? We have a separate preschool that we maintain. We have, I believe it's over 73 or 7,400 students right now, correct? All right. Well, then you go down the road and you look at Bellwood. Bellwood has 1 grade school, 1 junior high, and 1 high school, all on the same property. You go to Tyrone, I think they have 2. You go out to Hollidaysburg, I believe they have 2, maybe 3. Williamsburg has 1. What people don't realize, and after talking to me for about 5 minutes, which I'm sure is excruciating, is that we run a little city here. We are the big boy on the block in this area. We are the big boy. And whenever I'm at the tax office the other day, and by the way, I misspoke at the last meeting because I got my tax and I went to the new administration building, which by the way, I got a tour of and I love it. I went in and I was paying my taxes along with other citizens. And I found out I misspoke. I said my taxes went up, I think it was $2 or $3. So I went in today or the other day, and I asked them to go back to the time I got on the board on 2018, the whole way to current, and to see what my tax differential was. Once again, I have no agenda here. I don't mind telling you my property is valued at $85,000. My taxes went up in the past 4 years, a total of $26 over 4 years, from where they were 4 years ago to now, or what I call that 2 large pizzas from Mama Randazzo's. That's what, and so this individual who was talking to me, and after about 10 minutes, he said, hey, can I have a couple of can you give me your number so I can have some people call you? And I said, yes, absolutely. Because I think it's important that we lay this out and say exactly what it is. We are not different than any other school district.
Well, we are, Rick. It's based on the value of the real estate and the income of your citizens. Compare Altoona to Hollidaysburg, to Bellwood, to Spring Cove. Our value of our real estate is less, and that's our ability to tax. The income of our constituents is less. That's our ability to tax. That's why we get a bigger reimbursement from the government. That's the way
you're telling me that I'm being lied to by the state, the education department, and the feds, who are telling me they use the same formula for every single school district. And so we fall in those parameters for the fact that we are, by the way, we're not the biggest school district in the state by far. They receive the same formula money we do. But I just want to say this. The bottom line is, whenever people talk and they have questions, I think it's important that we answer them openly and honestly. And I think that takes a lot of fear away. And if I was to ask everyone at this table, we just got our tax bill, and everyone, if you didn't want a penalty, you had to pay it by, I think, August, I forget the date. Does everyone in here know to a dime what they paid for their real estate tax for the school district? Because most people I talk to have no idea. So when I tell people, look what you paid 4 years ago and look what you pay today, they are shocked. Shocked, because they've been led to believe it's a lot more than it is. So that's the kind of information we need to give the public. And one more thing before we finish, I want to give Dr. Priatel a big kudos, and I know he's not going to accept this, or he's not going to, because he didn't advertise this. There was a fundraiser out in Hollidaysburg the other day for a school teacher we have at Juniata Gap, who's in desperate need of a kidney transplant. Mr. Priatel took it out of his time to go out there, show his support, and give a very nice monetary gift. And it's not often that we can recognize, and I know you don't want this attention, but I want to say thank you very much. We had a lot of school teachers out there, a lot of employees supporting that individual, and I want to give you kudos for showing up and doing that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Now,